Good evening and welcome once again to the Shadow Gallery. I, as am always, your host, James Donnelly. And if you check your clock or this watch, you're going to see that it's time for new comics, bitches! Sorry, I can't do that loud. I had, for those of you who watched my Batman Returns and Why It Sucks video, you'll know that I had oral surgery this week, and it's still a little... So anyway, on to the comics. This was a huge week. I mean, so much stuff came out that I get. And wow, I mean, some really, really excellent stuff came down the pipeline this week. So let's kick it off. I'm going to start out with two issues that I caught up on that I didn't review last time, but we're going to do it now. First is Witch Doctor number 2. This is such a fun series, and I really enjoyed the first one. I didn't enjoy this one as much, but it was still pretty darn good. It came out in kind of a light week. So I mean, it was my book. The first issue was my book of the week of that particular week. This one, not quite so much, only because, but you know, there's a lot of stuff it's up against this week. So, but comparatively speaking, it wouldn't even rank amongst what would be one of my picks of the week. Only because the other stuff is so good. Anyway, so those of you who got the first issue know that basically what we're dealing with, as I talked about before, I don't really like the this meets this type of thing, like Speed meets Die Hard on a plane or something like that. I don't like that whole kind of this mixed with this type of idea. But people say that this is kind of like House mixed with Fringe. If you were to take those two shows and combine them together, I disagree as far as the Fringe part. This is definitely much more like if House existed in the universe that Tales from the Crypt hails from. Because, if anything, this book holds a much greater kind of brotherhood with that, with the EC Comics and like Vault of Horror and Tales from the Crypt and Crime and Suspense, but more the horror stories rather than anything else. Because in this issue, we have Dr. Morrow and our everyman character Ryan Gast and Penny Dreadful. They're kind of supernatural sidekick. They diagnose and treat supernatural diseases. In this particular case, the supernatural disease that they're dealing with is it's a pediatric issue. Basically, an infestation of cuckoo fairy babies have overrun the town of Arkham, Oregon. And as Morrow explains, it's a way for the fairies. Basically, the fairies, they snatch these human children, they dress them up basically in like human baby form, and they do that in order so that the children will get free health care or free child care. The absurdity of the idea is just fun enough to work with, and the way that Morrow reveals this baby is, of course, something that is a horrible, awful idea, and it's played for laughs here. And if it existed in any other universe, it would be really bad taste. But in this, it's actually pretty damn funny. Is that in order to reveal the baby's true form, they have to shake it, and of course, again, an awful, shaken baby syndrome. It's a horrible thing. But this, again, it works in this as a joke. and it's kind of funny. And there are some other kind of, dead baby jokes. Again, Dr. Morrow, very much has this horrific gallows sense of humor. And we have a new player in this issue. We have Absinthe O'Reilly, or Abby. She is the curator of the Museum of Supernatural History. So again, in this universe, we are dealing with, okay, well, everybody knows that these kind of things kind of exist. Not everybody, but most, some people. Anyway, so they deal with the issue, and basically, Dr. Morrow has this sword that he kind of needs to teach how to kill certain things. And it's unclear as to how exactly that works, but it's still interesting. And again, the whole comic is played very much throughout with a very tongue-in-cheek sense of humor. And if it didn't have that, this book would not work at all. It would just be another, it would be like, okay, well, House meets whatever, because you have the ill-tempered, bad, egotistical, doctor, and then, you would have this other breed that you would mix it with, and it forms this, again, like I said, if the humor wasn't there to offset the horror that this comic presents, because it is a horror comic, but it's treated with, with a tongue very, very firmly planted in cheek. Again, Brandon Seifert, he does a really great job writing this. Lucas Kettner is a really good artist. Again, really kind of hard. He doesn't do a very cartoony, comic-y style to this. It's more of what some of the artists from EC, like Wally Wood and other names that completely escape me right now, unfortunately. It's more in line with their work. So anyway, good comic, very good comic, and I enjoy it a lot. Next one I'm going to review, this, I don't know how long this particular week's reviews are going to last, so strap in, is Fear Itself, Black Widow, one-shot. Obviously, if you've been reading Fear Itself, you know that, Bucky is dead. And if you were reading Captain America before that, you knew that Bucky and Natasha, or Black Widow, were lovers. And this deals specifically with... it doesn't specifically deal with Bucky's death, but it takes place after it. Basically, Natasha's been sent off to the serpentified Paris, basically where the Grey Gargoyle has turned everybody to stone. And he, but it has nothing to do with him, actually, with the Grey Gargoyle. It's basically she's there to, she's working with the French superhero Peregrine, and they're there to, she's basically there to take down, pretty much single-handedly, although Peregrine does help, a terror cell that's looking to get their hands on, they've taken hostages, but their ultimate goal is to get their hands on a kind of like, what they call the equivalent to, the president's football, which is, the nuclear football, which is basically the case with all of the firing codes for the nuclear arsenal, and that's what they're looking to get their hands on from France's. And she is. I've never seen a comic in which the Black Widow has been so ruthlessly, where she's really been like a wet work spy. She is, ruthlessly efficient. She is, she said, she's cold to the task, but, that she's kind of being taken a little bit out of the loop by, Steve Rogers, because Rogers is afraid that she might be emotionally compromised, so she can't do much good where, all of the events of all the major events of Fear itself are taking place. So these are still players on the chessboard, and they need to be taken out. And I've never seen Natasha do the stuff that we see in this, except in, for instance, the Ultimates. I've never seen Earth, the 616 universe Black Widow do what's in this comic, and that's maybe my fault. Maybe I haven't read enough of her stuff. But again, that ruthlessness, that efficiency, and it's really good. It's a really, really, really good issue. It's probably one of the better Fear itself tie-ins that I've read. It's only a one-shot, but again, it works really well. It's Cullen Bunn is the writer. I've never heard of him. Never heard of this person. I can't really say it's him or her. And Peter Nguyen does the art. It's great art. It's really, really, really good. Little reminiscent, I would say, of maybe Raphael Albuquerque, who does American Vampire. It just kind of has that flavor to it. It's very kind of skinny, or where people look very slim, I guess is the best way to put it. It's really just, all in all, it's a really good book, and I think that if you got your hands on it, you'd enjoy it. Green Hornet number 17. This was a nice return to, I guess more of a personal story, because we've got our new Kato, Mulan Kato. She's basically kidnapped by the Red Hand and forced to, kind of go through this this kind of gauntlet of various tests to try and save her father, the original Kato. And meanwhile, Britt is still trapped, where the Red Hand, kind of took him out. And again, there's a lot of, it's similar to what we saw in Black Widow, because she does deal with these people with very ruthless efficiency, and she comes across all manner of scum and villainy, but the way that she works it out, and then finally comes up against the Red Hand himself, and basically it's found out that the Red Hand, he was actually trained by Kato, which is, I think, why they know so much about this. So I mean, it's just this is a really it's a very strong issue. I thought that the previous issue, because Phil Hester is no longer writing this, he's plotting it. Andy Parks is writing it. He's actually scripting it. Artist Igor Vitorino is doing the art. The art's pretty good. It's not as good as Jonathan Lau's by any stretch of the imagination. I really prefer Jonathan Lau's work on this book. But last issue was just a little bit off. Didn't really seem to care. But this really kind of got me back into the emotional arc of this comic, and also into the big action that this book is really, really, really good at. So I'm glad that Green Hornet 17 was better than I thought it would be. So anyway, stick around. We've got a lot more to cover. So like I said, pack a lunch and stay for the day, because we've got a lot to go on. And by the way, if anybody knows what this signifies, you get a prize. So comment, like, dislike. Tell me what this is, and you'll get a prize. See you in a bit.